And what is good, everybody? What is good, people of the world? So, over the course of these past few streams, we started pretty simple with the basic webcam, the mic, and got a light here, got headphones happening now, and by next week I'll be streaming with the DSLR. So. And what is good, everybody? What is good, people of the world? So, over the course of these past few streams, so I'll be, the quality of the video quality will go up significantly. Now, I think the audio quality is pretty good, but some people were talking about the issues with the audio. I don't know if that's just because, on the last stream, there was a literal party happening in my room. But yeah, how is everybody doing today? If you can hear me, if everything sounds good, say hi, say what's up in the chat. I do feel a little bit better with the ability to monitor the audio here. So yeah. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about the dark psychology of females. So a lot of the stuff that people don't really talk about. Some things that people do talk about, but everybody kind of knows. Everybody kind of thinks about. And I'd like to also get some of your own experiences with, with kind of the sly things that girls do that, essentially take advantage of guys or might not be the coolest. Of course, a lot of people who are married, end up getting involved in these long-term sexless relationships. Some dudes do have great long-term marriages or relationships or stuff like that, but I've heard too many stories. I've told this before, but I had a buddy, very good buddy, who he essentially built a house, renovated it all himself, all for his wife. They got married. He wanted kids, she didn't, and he said essentially like, I would like kids. She's like, I don't want kids. And they had a marriage. I'm not sure how long it was. I think maybe about 5 to 10 years or so. And he was basically working so hard that she could stay at home, live at home, do and that sort of thing. But she didn't have to work any amount at all. So but then like in the end, she what did she do? How did she pay him back? I'm sure you guys can guess where this is going. She essentially she was working at home. She was just chilling at home doing nothing. He was working for everything for her, and well, essentially what happened? Yeah, she screwed him over basically. She said there's no passion in the relationship anymore. There was no love. It became sexless. She stopped doing anything for him. And one day she said she wanted to get a divorce, and within a couple months she was already dating a guy and had a kid with that guy. So not only base insult, but insult and injury, financial injury, all of the above. You guys know the drill. You guys know how this happens. Is the guy you're talking about from Texas? No, he's not. But I'm sure this is like kind of a common tale for a lot of people. Starts out good, starts out great. Gradually, the woman essentially starts taking more and more and giving less and less, including sex, and it's something that might happen on both sides. But you do see, if you see psychological studies, you do see that guys do end up essentially becoming more dependent on the woman, and so the breakup really it messes with them a lot, right? Especially if you think that this is my chick, we're gonna be together forever or whatever. So yeah, it is unfortunate, but it is what it is. And this is like another kind of thing that guys do, right? And that's essentially what brought him to me. So I met up with this guy for initial consultation. He was like, look, this is my deal. My wife screwed me over. She not only did she insult me biologically by not wanting kids with me, but quickly having kids with another guy within a few months of divorcing me. She took half of his income. He's paying her alimony and all that. So these kind of things are quite essentially it just sucks, right? It sucks what women can get away with. You look at guys like Jeff Bezos who he got divorced recently, and yeah, his wife, like, I'm sure she was supportive. I'm sure she was sure she was very helpful through his relationship and everything, but there's no way that she deserves half of his Amazon fortune, essentially, right? Yeah. um yeah, so that's essentially what brought this guy to me, right, for coaching. And we had a great time, like, going around the world, essentially, multiple different countries, hooking up with girls in Indonesia, in the Philippines, in Thailand, and in Japan, just all around, right? Having a great time. So, he's living his best life. Not so much right now because of Corona and all that, but yeah, he had a great time. We were doing coaching and traveling and just hooking up with girls in different countries around the world. So I was having a great time. He was having a great time. I introduced him to, he had a couple girls in different countries that he was essentially, were his girlfriend in the Philippines, his girlfriend in Indonesia or whatever. And these are girls, we met together. So, I went out and helped him meet a lot of new girls and get over his old ones. He had basically the best times of his life. This was all before Corona, of course, hit it and made it a lot more difficult to travel. Yeah, am I still living in Japan? Yes, I am living in Japan, having a great ass time of it as well. Investing too much in girls is not good. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, never give with expectation. Yeah, that's true. And, get a prenup, of course. I don't even really think there's much benefit to being in a marriage. I'm not sure. I can't. If somebody knows what the actual benefit to a man of being in a marriage is, I would like to know. I currently can't really think of it. Maybe visa reasons, I guess, could be it. I'm not really sure. Yeah. But, wow, it's interesting. I can actually hear how much backup audio this picks up. It's quite impressive. The mic is actually picks up a lot. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like, all this is like, and you can hear these cautionary tales all around the world, essentially. Like, I'm sure some of this hits familiar for some of you guys as well. But monkey branching, girls essentially, like, staying in one relationship until they find a better guy and then jumping onto that one, and this kind of stuff happens all the time, right? So I see it all the time. And I just want to kind of caution guys against this, right? Like, caution guys against giving too much of themselves to a woman who, and you got to pick carefully. You got to pick your girlfriend, if you are going to go down that wife route, marriage route, you got to pick very, very carefully. Pick a girl who's been raised well, pick a woman who's been raised well. As Ludacris said, you can't turn a hoe into a housewife, right? And it is kind of true, right? You do want to think about the type of person you're tying your boat to, essentially. Because I've seen, like, a lot of guys, essentially, yeah, they come out of these marriages and they come hit me up for coaching. They're like, what the fuck? Like, I'm 40, I'm 50, and I have no skills in this area because I've just been married to this woman for 15 years and I lost the time of my life where I should have been out there playing and I should have been out there messing around, and it just didn't happen, right? So they feel like they've missed out on the prime of their life, and they feel hurt and betrayed, essentially, by that woman, or maybe it was good for a while again, but ultimately a lot of these guys end up coming to me. They're like, all right, let's do it. Let's get coaching. Let's improve our skills. Let's learn the psychology of women, and essentially, like, how to play the game, how to work it. Yeah. See what some of these comments are. The player king of Tokyo. Yeah. Yes, indeed. It's like the one in the game, but in Tokyo and more profound and prolific. Yeah, Project Hollywood, right? Project Hollywood. Yeah, it's Project Tokyo, essentially. That's what you're looking. That's what the window into it is. Window into the lifestyle here. Today's a reasonably quiet day here at the house. Well, the ladies that were here went home, caught trains and whatnot. So, got a good chance to have a reasonably quiet, chill stream here. But yeah, have you guys ever felt taken advantage of a woman by a woman, right? And this starts with all kinds of behavior, right? It's because like girls quickly realize that they can get free dinners and all this from dates, and they're very good at extracting and stringing along guys for their own financial game, right? For their own financial gain, essentially, right? You know, getting them to buy them things, or at the simplest level, just dinners, drinks, or whatnot, right? Drink in the club turns into a dinner, a nice dinner, and then, it's bad when they start suggesting you places that they want to go. They're like, I want to go to this place, right? Yeah, never go to a restaurant that a girl suggests to you, at least not until you've been dating her, like, at least, 6 months or something. If she's trying to tell you where to go on the first date, that's a big red flag, right? It's a big red flag. The girl should be coming out on the date to see you, not to eat any sort of specific food or go to any sort of specific restaurant. Not to mention, there are a lot of these places that kind of rip guys off, right? Both bars, restaurants, sketchy little clubs, all these kind of places. They have partnerships with these girls who are often called angels, right? And this happens a lot in Roppongi, but also in Shinjuku and places like that. And these angels, essentially what they do is they pick guys up, or they meet them in a bar, they meet them on the street, even anywhere, in a club, and they say, oh, let's get another drink somewhere else, let's go to let's go to this bar, I know a place, and then they'll take them, and then they essentially, that bar is in cahoots with them, and they would basically, just the bill would be, you would think it's like 500 yen drinks, and then boom, you check the bill and it's like Ichiman or something, $100, $200, right? You're like, how is it even that much? So yeah, definitely be careful. And don't follow girls into places. Basically, this has never happened to me, and it never will, unless you unless you follow girls into venues that they suggest. So make sure you always know the venue you're going to. Even if it's a new area, you're not really sure, don't follow girls into places, because they are on this sketchy, angel type game, pulling guys into weird places. See, I clean my own home, I don't need a maid. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to be self-reliant. But at the same time, it's also nice to get girls to clean your house, right? That is the ultimate, right? Just train your chicks when they come in. Be like, yo, can you take care of this? I got a couple dishes, I got to write a work email. If you can just take care of this, then we'll have a drink afterwards. And there is this is something I haven't been doing since the beginning, right? Initially I was content just having nice drinks with girls, but eventually you gotta basically train these girls how you expect them to behave. And you don't do it in a mean way, you don't do it in an aggressive way or anything like that. Just pretty simple, just simple requests. Tell them what you expect from them, right? So for example, last live stream we had this girl, right? Hinano, she's a cool chick, but she, recently she's starting to, make more of an effort, and I've been instructing her as well. So after the live stream, she ended up cleaning the whole house. So there you go, like a girl, 150K subscribers on Instagram and followers on Instagram, and she's in here scrubbing down the kitchen. So yeah, girls will behave how you expect them to, but they do need to, number one, respect you, and they do need to feel like they're in the company of a good leader. Like if you're not naturally a leader of men, a leader of women, I mean, that's okay, but you do want to start learning, how to better lead these girls. Both, and it starts at the very beginning of the interaction. It starts, on the date. It starts with, how do you walk into the restaurant? It starts with, how do you, how do you accept this, service or this table, right? And again, I'm not saying to be a dick to the staff or wait staff or anything like that. Definitely don't do that. But like if you're jammed in the corner at some table, just be like, can we sit at this table actually, right? Simple stuff like that. Or when you're walking in the street, making sure she has enough space to walk, making sure nobody's like running into her or anything like that. Leading, choosing the restaurant, picking the location, knowing where you're going, walking deliberately and directly. Yeah, you don't want to walk too fast that you outpace her, but at the same time, you don't walk so slow that you know, you're super appeasing her, right? You want her to walk slightly faster than her normal pace, because yeah, you do have places to go and you do have things to be doing. So cultivate those behaviors of leadership, both of men and of women, essentially. Yeah. If you have you ever thought of marrying a girl before? Thought has briefly crossed my mind, just so wouldn't, you know, don't need to do the visa renewal bullshit again. But yeah, but I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily worth the downsides. Let me just text something here in the chat. Make sure if you guys can, if you guys have any experiences of being either used by girls or anything that you thought was kind of shitty behavior on their part, I'd be interesting to hear that. It'd be interesting to comment. Yeah, so yeah, if you've wanted to get married or find a girlfriend, you probably shouldn't be looking in clubs and bars. Just my opinion. Yeah, you know, that's true. That's true. I mean, yeah, definitely where you search, where you look for girls is gonna be the kind of girl that you find. I think in general though, like, you can find girls who are good in those places, but it is more rare. It is you're certainly digging in the wrong pool of whatever it might be, you know. You do essentially want to, yeah, like, actually one story, like, I did meet a really nice girl, one of the best girls I you know, I when I first started game, and like after my, you know, my initial first girlfriend or two, I had a girlfriend who was a cabin attendant for JAL. It was great, and she was amazing. She was supportive, nurturing, everything. She would show up to my house with like random pieces of furniture or whatever, and she would help my house essentially, right? And that was awesome. And you know, she would show up. She'd be like, "Oh, you need a clothes rack," and like next time she would come with a clothes rack. And so super sweet girl. But I met her in the club, but I never would have. Yeah, I never would have expected her to be in the club, essentially, right? And it was kind of funny how it happened, because I saw her across the club, and she was about to leave, about to go down the stairs, and I was like all the way across the club. I was like, no, damn it, because like I was talking to all these other like kind of normal, whatever, average chicks, and then I saw her like across the club. I was like, no, damn it, and I like charged through like a whole horde of people. She was going downstairs out of the club, and I was like, wait. And then I connected with her, and from there, yeah, we dated for a couple of years. Super sweet girl. Helped me out a lot, you know, just with small things, you know, just cooking and cleaning, and just going and doing whatever, you know, I wanted to do, like going to places I wanted to go, restaurants, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. I wouldn't write off clubs too quickly. A girl once SNL'd ended up dating for nearly 5 years. She was literally wife material. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can definitely find good girls in the club. It's not the norm though. They're often crazy, you know, party humans. Sorry about that. Bump the mic here. I'm really liking this this vinegar drink recently. It's quite good. It's what is it? Persimmon? No, not persimmon. Pomegranate vinegar and soda water. It is great. Yeah, you guys, please drop a like in the please drop a like on the video. It helps out the algorithm and everything. I'm sure you guys know. I'm sure you guys know. Got some comments that are getting. I guess YouTube doesn't like the word pussy. It'll hold these comments if I don't undo them. Usually Japanese dudes expect their girl to cook dinner after work. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. She's amazing in every way. Still wouldn't marry her or anyone. Yeah, for sure. Back in February, I went out with an English speaker that I met at an IP. Well, okay, there's your first and second problem. I met her for the date at some expensive place in Shibuya that she picked because it stayed open past 8. Right. Yeah, I mean it's tricky. Like you can't be going to these places that girls are suggesting. I mean that's a pretty basic but easy thing that you can easily avoid, and you know, and then you won't be in any kind of trouble. I had this happen a couple times in Roppongi where a girl would try to take me to some place, and I also had it happen to a friend who in Shinjuku. He's actually an ex-student. He, I think he followed somebody into a bar or something, but they essentially drugged his drink with something that made him just totally agreeable, and so they there's video footage of them later. He blacked out and woke up the next day. There's video footage of him the next day. He went there. He was like, I have no idea what happened. He went to the cops. He looked. They pulled the footage of the street, and there's footage of him literally walking to a convenience store, pulling out money repeatedly from his bank and handing it over to these guys. Right. So I have no idea what kind of drug would make you do that. Something like scopolamine or something happens in Colombia as well, but that is pretty fucking intense. Yeah, he got taken for a lot of money. So yeah, definitely watch yourself in these places. Again, really, really simple way to avoid it is don't follow a girl into a place. Don't follow anybody into some random sketchy place that you don't know much about. The bill will be different than you expect, or that's the best case scenario. The best case scenario is you have a drink or two, and then they try to fleece you for a couple $100s. The worst case scenario is they drug you, and you withdraw all your money out of your bank account. So that's pretty awful. All right, let's check in on Ramey's story here. Back in February, so you went to English speaker. As most places didn't. The bill came to Ichiman like $110, and because you made her pay $4,000, she said it wouldn't work out between us because we have different priorities. I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess like how old is she, right? Number one. Number two. I mean, get out of the international parties. Like you've been in that circuit for a long time, man. It's time to evolve. Yeah, I mean, you meet a lot of low quality women in these places, essentially, right? Like I don't know, I've been there, right? Yeah, but yeah, I mean that's not like too uncommon that a girl might be like a little weirded out if you make her pay. But the thing is like you never should have been there in the first place. You never should have followed her in the first place. I'm not trying to make it all your fault. Obviously, she was annoying, right? Like that's weird behavior. Like anybody should be fine paying 4,000 yen out of a 11,000 yen bill. Shouldn't be a deal. It shouldn't be a problem at all. How do you guys deal with girls that take arguments too far, like getting physical or threatening with suicide? Yeah, I mean, if a girl's getting physical or threatening with suicide, either she's just literally insane, like she's insane and you need to get away from her, or maybe if you've been dating for a long time, it could be possible. If she really, really likes you, she thinks that's the only way she has of getting attention from you. But either way, those are like really any sign of her threatening suicide or getting physical is like a huge red flag, and you need to get away from that girl because she's going to cause more and more problems later, essentially. So I don't think there's any salvaging any sort of relationship like that. So how do I deal with it is just get away from them, essentially. Anytime a girl tries to threaten to cut herself or anything like that, that's basically the end of the relationship for me. First time I came to Japan, an ex-stripper asked me to give her money because she was struggling. I felt bad, gave her 10k yen, didn't even sleep with her in the end. Yeah, I mean, you probably could have just like turned it into a normal transaction and be like, all right, well, let's fuck, and I'll give you money after, and then dealt with it that way if you wanted to. But yeah, feeling bad, huh? Something similar. I went to dinner with a chick. The bill was 6,000 yen. You paid 4,000, made her pay 2,000. She complained the next day that she was shocked that I made her pay 2,000 yen. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, it's tricky. Like, I pretty much always, it depends on my mood. Like, sometimes I'll make them pay. Most of the time I'll make them pay. I mean, recently I just don't even go to dinner. I don't even go to some place that the bill's going to be more than I'm happy to just pay entirely and not even care about it. So, if the girl is very nice, I might take her someplace for, you know, a couple small dishes and one drink, maybe spend 45 minutes or an hour in there, and the bill will be what, like 4,000 yen or something. So, and then in that case, I'll often just pay the whole thing. But back when I did more dates, I would do, yeah, I would split the bill with girls almost every time. And there was a few weird girls that caused some big fuss about it, but most of the time, if they're having a good enough time, you know, they're not going to worry too much about it. I do know some Japanese guys who negotiate beforehand. They're like, all right, so we're going to go to my place after this. And then if they say no, they're just like, okay, well, we're going to split the bill. And if they say yes, then he's like, all right, I'll cover it. Yeah. Yeah, just go for coffee dates. Yeah, just do a simple date or drinks, something like that. So she was 30. Why are the girls you date as girlfriends okay with you banging other chicks? Yeah, I mean, I guess most of them... So Japan doesn't really have a lot of culture about open relationships. Need a tissue here. But, hang on a second, guys. I've got to blow my nose. Yeah, Japan doesn't have much of a culture about open relationships. So, for the most part, like unless it's going to be super obvious, like when I was living alone, it was really easy to just you know, just be like, you know, I'm not sleeping with other girls. I went through phases of this essentially. I went through phases of when I first arrived, I wanted to be open and honest because I'm from the West and we want to be honest and, you know, tell girls, yes, we're going to be in an open relationship or we're just sex friends and that's the deal. But one of the things that's one of the big ways that psychology is different in Japan from the West, I think, at least, is that I mean, these girls really just, they want to hear the beautiful lie, essentially, right? They want to hear you know, the fact that, okay, you know, no, I'm not sleeping with other girls, right? They want you to look at them in the eye and be like, I'm not sleeping with other girls. And then just cover your tracks, basically. Like, that's essentially the way it's done in Japan for the most part. And, you know, if I was in the West, I would probably be a little bit more straightforward. I'd be like, nah, you're going to have to share me or something like that. But in Japan, like, especially when I was living alone, I would essentially just, you know, yeah, just tell them, no, I'm not sleeping with other girls, and then do it. Whereas, but now it's a little bit different. Obviously, I'm living here in this, like, Project Tokyo house. And, you know, any kind of girl who's my girlfriend is at least going to get a bit suspicious because, you know, if she sees my Instagram where I'm just, like, constantly out with anywhere from 2 to 20 girls, right? And, you know, you can tell from just looking a couple times that the ratio is insane, right? It's like me and 4 guys and 20 girls or something, right? So, you know, she's going to get a bit suspicious, right? So I had until recently 2 girlfriends. One was the porn star, essentially, and she doesn't really ask anything. She doesn't say, hey, are you dating or sleeping with other girls? So it's sort of like a don't ask, don't tell kind of situation with her. And I think she kind of suspects it. She'd be a fool not to, essentially. She sees my lifestyle. But the other girl is a very, very sweet, very, very pure, petite girl, and little young office lady type girl. And for her, yeah, I was basically saying, no, I'm not sleeping with other girls. And I'm like, you know, she knows I teach Nampa, and she knows I'm with girls all the time and all this sort of stuff. But I was essentially saying, like, look, this is just like, this is my job. This is what I'm doing. I'm entertaining these girls. This is the promoter job. This is like this. I also host these baller parties, essentially, which are like parties for guys with money, right? Where they just come and meet girls, right? They're about $300 a person, 30,000 yen a person, and they come, and it's usually 2-to-1 girls to guys ratio. You know, there's nice food, nice drinks, and all this kind of stuff, and these guys are happy to come and just meet a bunch of, you know, girls who are normal girls, right? Not you know, not like kaba kura, although there are some kabas hostesses that do come to these parties. They're happy to just meet normal girls, and you know, very cute, in abundant girls, right? So that's kind of the idea of that party. But so she knew that my girlfriend, the petite one, knew essentially that I was having these parties, right? So she was fine with it, right? And and she was saying, you know, I think in her mind she kind of had this suspicion the whole time that I was sleeping with other girls, you know, but she would kind of rationalize it away, and that's what they do. If they don't want to believe something, they'll just rationalize it away. They'll just be like, nah, he said he's not doing it. I bet he's not doing it, right? In their heart of hearts, they kind of think, they're like, he's probably fucking around, but they're so interested in preserving the fantasy, preserving the myth, that you know, it like their own ego essentially finds ways to prove what they want to be true. I mean, it's the same thing that basically any sort of human does, although women really do take it to a pretty extreme level with their psychology here, of proving the sweet lie true in their own mind, essentially, right? Yeah. How do you make chicks pay? I mean, at the end, you just look at the bill and you just say, like, do you have 2,000 yen, right? 2,000 yen aru or whatever, right? You ever had a girl try to trick you into meeting her family or marriage or even pregnancy? These girls are sneaky as fuck. Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. I've never had a girl into tricking me to meet her family. I have had girls who will, like, when they're on top, if we're doing it raw or something, you know, then they know I'm about to bust, but they just don't, like, if I'm on top, I'll pull out, right, or whatever, right? But if they're on top, they'll just, like, ride it and, like, have, like, a little sneaky look in their face. So yeah, something like that definitely happened. I don't think I've had anybody trick me into marriage, but I do think I've had girls definitely try to get pregnant by me multiple times. So, yeah. Lying is good. Yeah, lying is good. For Russian girls, it's also common sense the man pays the bill. Yeah, and I mean, like, if you're not comfortable with the price of the bill of the place you're going, just go somewhere cheaper or do a different activity, right? You know, you can convince them to come over to cook with you. You can take them out just for drinks and take them out for one drink and take them to a walk. Because you get them out to a picnic in the park, right, where you just bring a couple chuhais and a couple sandwiches or whatever. You can find a lot of dates that are not going to be expensive, that you'll get mad if she makes you pay. Infidelity is a matter of ignorance is bliss. Hear no evil, see no evil. Yeah, that's exactly true. It took me a while to kind of figure this out, and that girlfriend that I talked about meeting in the club, the sweet one, right? At first she was like, you know, and she went back and forth on this. She was like, I just want to know the truth. Like, are you sleeping with other girls? And then, like, and I was like, no. But then, like, eventually I was like, all right, yeah, I did sleep with another girl. And she's like, what the fuck? And she flipped out. So, yeah, they definitely do not want to know the truth, right? They do not want to know the truth. Yeah, if they like you, they will make excuses for you. That's absolutely it. It does, like, in Japan, it is kind of like, it's just tacky to tell the truth if you are, right? In the West, it seems it's like kind of honorable or something, but in Japan, it's like you're not even respecting their feelings by telling them, you know, the truth about your infidelity or whatever it is, right? Yeah, girls want polygamy in a guy but don't want to hear it or think about it. Yeah, exactly. Basically, they want to feel through your vibe, and, you know, they want to think that, yeah, this guy definitely could be fucking a lot of girls because he's cool as fuck, and that's why I'm with him. But they don't want to be confronted with any evidence of that fact. So they don't want to, like, you know, girls will count the condoms in your drawer or whatever, or they'll, like, look around for things in your bathroom or your, you know, or your toilet or whatever, or the trash can in your bathroom is a big one, right? You know, they'll be like, what's in here? Are there Q-tips, suspicious Q-tips, or, you know, are there pink toothbrushes lying around somewhere? They'll scour everything, and that's another reason why I do not leave girls in my house alone. Here it's a little bit different. There's always basically girls here, but girls that I care about, I essentially do not leave them alone ever, right? The only exception would be like when I go to the bathroom. I'm not gonna be like, yeah, you can chill in my house for a couple hours. I'm just gonna go do some stuff, or I gotta go to work. You can just sleep here. I'm never basically trying to let them, have any time alone in my house, because I know given any time at all, they're gonna dig through everything, right? They're gonna dig through everything. So definitely do not give girls time alone in your house. The day stops pimping is the day she decides to flip on him. Yeah. The trick you with the family thing. Invite you to a party. It turns out to be a family gathering. Suddenly shows up with her sister. Damn, that sounds awful and awkward. That sounds awkward as fuck. The truth is deemed so insolent in Japan. Yeah. Once had an older Kaba insisted she paid the pill. Didn't come over. Never saw her again. Still confused about that one. Yeah, that's actually common, actually, for Kabas. I had another girlfriend who, it was raining, and I set up this date with her. I didn't really remember anything about her. I met her on Halloween, and of course I had been drinking a lot because it was Halloween, and this was back when Halloween was crazy in Shibuya. They've locked it down a lot, but we were just all roving around, getting tons of lines, getting dozens, 30, 40 lines, right, over the course of the night. So I had no idea who this girl was when she showed up, but it was raining, and she was like, all right, I'm coming. And she pulled up in a taxi, and I was like, oh, where'd you come from? She was like, I came from Chiba because it's raining. And I took a taxi, and I was like, what the, that must have been a couple $100 taxi. And I thought it was funny because she was like, I didn't, it was raining, so I took a taxi. But then she didn't even bring an umbrella. So she was walking outside in the rain. I was like, you all right? She's like, nah, it's fine, it's fine. I was like, what? And I tried to use my umbrella over her. She's like, it's okay. Anyway, really funny girl. But yeah, she paid the entire bill. She paid the entire bill of our first date, and I pulled her home. And I'm trying to remember if I did smash or not the first date. It might have, no, I think it was actually not the first date that I hooked up with her for this one, but we did end up dating for quite a while, maybe about 6 months or a year. This is the girl who took me on all sorts of things, like helicopter rides and whatnot. Yeah. Guys, go ahead and hit that like button, please. It does help me out a lot. It helps the algorithm. Let's fight the power. Promote the channel. Make sure everybody's seeing this here now, because YouTube does not like this type of content. So we got to fight it with overwhelming majority of humans. Yeah, click that like button, definitely, and sub if you're not subbed. Yeah. Girls are more jealous about emotional fidelity. Guys are more jealous about girls sleeping with other guys, wired differently. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah, girls are more afraid that you're gonna leave them permanently to be with the new girl, whereas guys are, obviously more afraid that their girl's gonna get pregnant by some random guy, right? Because if the girl's pregnant by a random guy, then she's, the guy's got to raise the kid, which is a bad, biological investment for him. Whereas if, for the girl, if she loses her man permanently, then she's gonna have to raise the kid herself, which again is a bad investment for her, or it's just difficult for her. Anyone here ever dated two girls that looked extremely similar physically, but were the opposite personality-wise? That's funny. I can't say I've had exactly that experience, but yeah, that is funny. My girlfriend Chinese asked for a monogamy directly, so I feel bad lying to her. Maybe I'm not getting something culturally. Yeah, I mean, I think you should just lie to her. It sort of depends, how your, how your life is built. If you're living with other people or if you're living alone. If you're living alone, I think it's just the best idea is just be like, okay, sure, we're not going to sleep with other people. And this is the other thing is they actually like you to be quite jealous and possessive, right? So things asking her who are you with, where are you now, right? Calling her up, what are you doing, right? Checking her phone, right? So this is why and a lot of this kind of stuff some of this stuff is things that I've learned again over 10 nearly coming on 11 years now in Japan that I totally changed from when I was in the US, and things I would never do in the US. But I've sort of developed essentially a system, a series of techniques, both for using strategic jealousy. So this is, things like I was mentioning. So being like, oh, what do you do? Where are you now calling her, or looking at her phone, being like, show me your phone. Who are you talking to, right? Or change your phone background to a picture of me, something. Giving them direct kind of commands and orders, essentially, right? This is something I never would have done 5 years ago, 7 years ago. Never would have even thought of it. But it's incredibly, incredibly powerful. It's like scary powerful. But you have to do it in the right way, and you have to introduce it gradually. Because if you're doing it because you're really, really actually jealous, then you're being controlled by your emotions, right? But if you do it because you care about her and you want to use it essentially as like a tool to become closer to her, then it's extremely powerful, because the girl's like, damn, this guy likes me, right? So that's kind of the difference, right? Like if you're like, let me see your phone, because you're extremely jealous, then that's some feelings that you need to work through yourself, right? Then you need to take a look at your inner confidence, your core confidence, and be like, well, where is this coming from, right? But if you're doing it as a technique, in other words, if you're in control of your emotions and doing it anyway, then it becomes extremely powerful. And this is like essentially like some Mace Windu shit. So, it's just like in Star Wars, Mace Windu is the one he's the only Jedi who uses his emotions, including negative emotions like jealousy or anger or something, right? But channels it for good, right? So this is kind of like the dark side, the dark path of game, essentially, right? And yeah, a lot of these kind of techniques, a lot of these things, leveraging jealousy, right? Being controlling, being demanding, telling them what to do, right? Training them essentially to clean your house, right? These are things which do not come naturally to a lot of men coming from the West, or just men in general, right? But they're extremely, extremely powerful when you put them together. You get girls who essentially will be by your side no matter what. Ride or die girls. You could probably rob a bank with them or something, right? Go Bonnie and Clyde with these girls, right? So this is kind of intense stuff here. And I'm actually going to mention this. I do have something coming out here, so go ahead and check this out, darkpast.attractionjapan.com. Let me pin this as well. And if any of that sounds even remotely interesting to you, any of these kinds of taking girls' souls, for lack of a better word, taking control of the relationship, and really like pushing how far things can go. If you're at all interested in any of that, just go ahead and toss your email into that. Throw your email in there, because it's going to be an intense course. Is all I can say. Yeah, and I've really broken it down into steps so that like things can essentially, it's like first date do this, second date do this, third date do this, 2 months in start doing this, 3 months in start doing this. So this is essentially like long term, both initial reading, so reading the girls initially, but also it's like long term, essentially psychological control, sinking the fangs in really, really deep, essentially. So this is pretty deep stuff, so definitely have a look in there. Throw your email in there as well. How many girls are getting nampod by dudes are already married or have a boyfriend? Seems pretty normal. Yeah. It's definitely normal for girls who are married and have a boyfriend to get picked up by dudes and hook up with them. It's normal to find, married housewives by themselves in happening bars. It's normal to find these girls trolling, Tinder or whatever for dick, right? Basically, it's the same. It's the way of the land in Japan. Girls essentially go behind their guys' backs, and guys do the same thing too. Guys usually more so go to prostitutes or something like that, but both sides are essentially doing intense cheating. And it's not everybody, right? You will find loyal people out there, and they're you get when you do a lot of game, you do a lot of pickup, and you pull enough girls who have boyfriends, right? You start thinking, well, fuck, is every girl with a boyfriend just fucking around? And yeah, it is true that a lot are, but you're also pre-selecting for the girls who do respond in the street. So you do have that pre-selection essentially. it's interesting, but teetering on sociopathy. Yeah. So, to me, the difference here, and it's a good point. The difference here is that sociopathy is you're doing it entirely for your own means, entirely for your own will, whereas ideally you want to do it from a place of helping the relationship with her, right, and understanding. So this is kind of the dark truth, the dark reality of female psychology, is that they want to feel that control. They want to feel that masculine dominance, right? And again, not necessarily every single girl, right? And each girl in varying degrees. But if you're giving her the spiritual, paladin experience or whatever, right? The monk experience, the I will turn the other cheek and accept all punishment and all hypergamous behavior, all of the sort of bad things we talked about at the beginning, right? Because all these guys that we discussed at the beginning, my friend who he essentially took a turn the other cheek, I'm gonna devote myself to this girl, I'm gonna do things the right way. And a lot of these guys who want to do things the right way, they end up getting burned, right? They end up raising some other guy's kid. They end up, with half of their assets gone, all because the girl decided to monkey branch up to another dude, or just got tired and felt fickle and dipped out of the relationship. So the tricky thing is that, look, yeah, it's definitely, you can call it manipulation, right? It is intense, but it goes both ways, right? It goes both ways. It's essentially she's going to find a way to either manipulate you or squeeze as much value out of you as possible. Now, you might find the perfect sweet girl who, for some reason, never tries to do this to you. And damn, if you do, that's awesome, right? My recent girlfriend, the one, and I never actually mentioned what actually happened with you. I'll tell the story in a second. But my recent girlfriend, the one that we recently broke up, I think she's going to come around anyway. She's basically pretty close to that, but I noticed in various ways in which she tried to control my life, and would try to sort of squeeze the vice grip, essentially. And I wasn't essentially going to stand for that, right? So she was trying to control, and what I'm trying to say is it goes both ways, basically. Men, women, they essentially control each other. And if you find this perfect, idyllic, monk-like relationship where both parties neither control each other nor try to manipulate each other or extort, money from each other or whatever, then that's great. That is, I am really happy for you. You have found somebody who is quite unique and exciting. But I've seen far more cases of guys getting essentially used and torn apart by girls who by all initial accounts seem to be sweet, beautiful, nice, happy, pure, innocent little girls. And damn, do they change? Do they change in these longer relationships? Yeah. I don't know, if you're not after a long-term commitment, why would you manufacture the jealousy? It seems a bit manipulative. If you leave, they leave. Yeah, for sure. And that's one way you can do it. And that's the way I did it for the first, I would say half, maybe 6-7 years of my time in Japan. I would just say, look, if they leave, they leave. And that's still at the core of my psychology. That's still there. But essentially, manufacturing the jealousy is for her benefit, right? These girls, they want to feel like they're loved, right? So my big issue, and the big issue of when you're gaming, you have abundance, is you don't actually give a fuck, right? For the most part, right? Now, there's girls you like, that's never going to change. There's girls you love, that's never going to change. But at the same time, because you have so much abundance, you kind of don't give. You have this aura of blaseness, which is great. I mean, it's great to be blasé. It's great to be aloof. It's great to have options, right? But through that, the girls start to doubt, right? They say, well, wait, maybe I'm not enough for him. Maybe he doesn't really like me. So a lot of my relationships, I didn't really realize that, but the whole relationship, the girl was paralyzed out of fear that she didn't like me, or that I didn't like her, rather. And yeah, that's definitely that is definitely the case. You know, I could replace her at any point, and I did, and I was banging other girls. So there's a reason for her to feel that sort of anxiety. But you want to balance out that anxiety she might be feeling with extreme, essentially, passion and you know, displays of affection for her that is going to get her doing, you know, feeling loved, essentially, right? So it does sound intense, and it does sound, you know, I get a lot of people, especially, you know, just people who have been raised well, like, or who have spent a lot of time with spirituality and all this stuff. They essentially have this reaction where they're like, well, isn't this bad, that we're going to try to use this manipulation or this jealousy, and we're going to use it to control women? And yeah, it is something to consider. So, and this goes back to sort of the left hand and the right hand path, and you can think of it as the light side and the dark side of the force, right? The you know, the right hand path, or orthodox, essentially, religious teachings, all of the mainstream religious teachings are very ascetic, right? So they focus on bearing your own pain and, you know, self-flagellation or whatever, right? Turning the other cheek, right? Standing in cold rivers and waterfalls and absorbing the, you know, the pain of the world until it no longer affects you, and then through that you gain strength. And so there's all this kind of this theme through mainstream religion, essentially, where there's these motifs in all these religions about understanding pain and feeling the pain of the world and going through it, right? And then there's the left-hand path, which essentially is the occult. And what the occult is it's using your emotions, using your passion to essentially achieve enlightenment. So there's two paths, right? There's two paths here, and they do lead essentially to the same place, is the idea, right? So you know, an example is like a sigil, right? A magical sigil, where you would draw some sign that essentially has a meaning, a wish for you. So maybe you say, I want to make a lot of money. So you design a sigil that to you symbolizes your wish to make a lot of money. And then to actually cast that into reality, you have to have some sort of intense experience. Now that could be anything. It could be like ejaculating onto it. It could be like cutting your hand and bleeding onto the sigil, right? Any of these kinds of things. But the point is like you need a strong emotional experience to sort of burn your psyche so that it aligns and you start to manifest that reality, right? So this is essentially the idea of the left-hand path, the occult. And in Star Wars it comes out in something like Mace Windu, as opposed to the Sith, which, yeah, I mean, in some ways they are the epitome of evil, but there are actually some interesting fan theories about why the Sith are actually the good guys or something, but I won't get into that. For all intents and purposes, it's Mace Windu who, yeah, he uses his passion, he uses his emotion to essentially achieve enlightenment, and he was the only one that of the Jedi that the Sith were actually afraid of fighting, right? So this is kind of what it means by like harnessing your emotional states and bringing, you know, using that for good, for the benefit of the relationship, for the benefit of the girl, right? So it's the same reason that like the girl wants to be lied to about whether or not you're sleeping with girls. She does not want to be confronted with the fact that yes, you are, right? You might think, okay, she's an adult, she should make her own choice, and yeah, that's one way of doing it, but mostly they just get pissed off if you tell them the truth, right? They'd much rather have that pretty lie and believe that and have their Disneyland fantasy than be confronted with the brutal reality of truth. And I'm not here to tell anybody what's necessarily moral or immoral. Everybody can make their own decisions, but you know, essentially this is just like what I've found to be effective, right? In both having relationships of a depth that I didn't really realize was possible, and also in terms of conditioning them to have behaviors that you like and respect. So for example, you know, training girls to wash you in the shower, like it's a small thing, but it's something I love, right? I love having girls wash me in the shower, right? Or, you know, getting them to clean your kitchen and, you know, clean, you know, your house, these kinds of things, right? So all of this kind of stuff is, you know, stuff that might seem, it could seem superficial, it could seem manipulative, but, and for their devotion, for their commitment, there are ample rewards. There are ample rewards. Incredible sex, right? And great experiences, right? You got to treat the girls who fall into your patterns. You got to treat them right? You got to treat them well. So it's sort of a case. It's like, you know, I mean, even Plato didn't think that the vast masses should be able to vote, right? He, you know, came up with a republic, but he said that, you know, look, most people are too dumb to decide what is the best course of action in, you know, for their life. They have to, you know, be educated, have to be citizens, own property, all these sorts of things. There are criteria before they can decide the direction of the country. So it's the same thing. Like, I mean, you know, we can debate, we can go back and forth about whether or not the average person is capable of making the right decisions for themselves, right? I'm not trying to say we should live in a totalitarian regime, anything like that. I very much believe in freedom, and, you know, everybody should be able to make their own choices. But the question is, do people make the best choices for themselves? And I think a lot of times the answer is no, essentially, right? I mean, you see people who have horrible diets, right? Who, you know, act in self-destructive ways, who gamble, who, you know, smoke tobacco or whatever. I mean, I like shisha and all that, but yeah, so like you know, it's not, morality is complicated. Morality is complicated, and relationships are complicated, and this is just this is something, and I'm not saying everybody needs to do this, but I do think that, yeah, as Remy says, manipulation is an art. Yeah, that's true. The community is about leaving a woman better off to the best of your ability than when you found her. Yeah, exactly. And this also ties into to bondage, right? To bondage and SM and stuff that I've also been playing around with a lot recently. Is, you know, when you do these things with girls, when she gives up control and she asks you to dominate her, and she says, look, like, you know, this is what I like, right? This is how we end this. You know, this is the safe word that we're going to use to end this interaction if it goes too far, right? She's doing this because she's great. She's gracious for it. She loves it. She enjoys it, right? So, and a lot of guys have this aversion to this sort of behavior, right? Obviously, you know, the guy wants explicit permission, all this sort of stuff. But, yeah, a lot of girls. I mean, like, if you just place your hand on their neck while you're having sex, you're gonna notice, right, that a lot of these girls want things that they're not necessarily going to tell you. They want to feel dominated by a man. They want to feel like they're in the company of a powerful man, right? So yeah, so and this is the kind of stuff, the kind of behaviors that essentially can be systematized, learned, incrementized, all these things, and applied over time, right? Left-hand path. Someone smites me on one cheek, I smash them on the other. Yeah, all right. It's the biggest compromise. Yeah. So the thing is, what good relationships are all about compromise. Yeah, I mean, it could be all about compromise. I think there's some ways in which it's true, but there's also other ways in which you should never compromise, like the core of your being, right? There's some things that you should never, ever compromise, right? If a person's trying to ask you to compromise them, it means they're not right for you, and you need to cut them out of your life. So I'm all about having extremely strong boundaries about the type of girls that I have in my life, and cutting them out at the moment when they're, you know, when they break those boundaries, right? You know, one false step, if it's an extreme one especially, and they're out, right? So yeah, life is too short and too abundant to be dealing with girls who are crossing the boundaries, right? It does not mean you need to be aggressive towards them. Definitely don't be angry towards them, right? But just, if somebody crosses your boundaries, just withdraw yourself, withdraw access to you, right? That's the ultimate power move, is to say to that person, okay, I'm just going to remove myself from this equation, right? The ultimate form of punishment for the girl is she doesn't have access to you anymore, right? And if that's not punishment enough, then you need to work on, you know, making your life and your lifestyle and you know, her time with you, making that amazing, right? Because it has to be. It has to be. Your lifestyle, your life, everything you're doing, and her time with you, and the way that you treat her, the way you care for her, right, has to be extremely powerful for any of this to work, right? Sigil of Baphomet, right? I think girls manipulate us more than we manipulate them. Yeah, absolutely, 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 absolutely. Yeah, they definitely do. And the thing is that they're essentially given a pass, you know. Girls are essentially given a pass. Like general society is like, oh, women, they're oppressed, and you know, anything, you know, they can't do any wrong, essentially, right? You know, the courts are on their side. You know, if you have a kid with them, basically going to give the you know, the baby to the girl, right? So yeah, the girls are essentially given a free pass to manipulate men. Things like plastic surgery and makeup are minor forms of manipulation. Human beings essentially manipulate each other. The word itself sounds quite dirty and bad, but it's just what people do. So the question is, are you going to manipulate effectively and for good, or are you going to manipulate in a way that because you're controlled by petty emotions, right? If you're not controlled by petty emotions, then, you know, then might as well do it in a way that is designed to satisfy her, right? Women, they need to feel like they have a sense of purpose in your life, right? Most of these girls, especially if, you know, if you're an older dude and you're going after younger girls, there's basically no real main reason, no real thing they can offer you other than, you know, their beauty and their youth, right? Especially in, you know, in Japan, we're not really, most of the time you're not going to have intense philosophical discussions with them, right? Conversely, would you want your girlfriend to be emotionally or physically faithful to you, or reciprocate with don't ask, don't tell? I mean, I guess it depends. It depends. For the most part, essentially, yeah, I want her to be completely and utterly faithful. Yeah. In some cases, it might be okay. It's sort of a case by case basis, right? And I look for different things in each of my relationships. So the relationship with the porn star is essentially, I don't really care that much what she's doing right now. It's still relatively early in the interaction. She fucks guys for a living, right, on camera. So, and I have no problem with that. Like, fine, do it, right? Make that money. Take me on vacation. So I have no problem with that. But there probably will be a time relatively soon where I'm gonna start kind of cranking some of the screws on her private life. So that's gonna be, yeah, that's coming in the woodwork. It's almost time. It's almost time. Any small red flags / boundary crossings you see from sweet girls early in an LTR? Yeah, yeah. If they leave stuff in your bathroom without asking you, that's a red flag. I'll just say, look, don't leave. And the first time they do it, if it's something really expensive, I won't. But for the most part, I'll just throw it away immediately. The toothbrush, right? And then the next time they come over, they're like, "Where's this?" I'll just be like, "What? I just get rid of everything that I don't know. If you want to leave something here, you have to ask me, right? Don't just do things because you think it's okay, right?" So very early on, you have to tell girls that you have to basically condition them. It's a process of conditioning. You have to be like, look, it's not okay for you to just do random things that you want to do just because you want to mark your territory or something, right? Another big one is showing up to your house unannounced, right? Or assuming that they can come over. So if they're like, I'm going to be at your house in 10 minutes, that's a big no-no. That's a big no-no, right? It's a big breach of your privacy and your boundaries. And that's just the thing you have to train right away, that's not okay. Not okay for them to do. Yeah, those are a couple red flags, boundary crossings that come to mind. Definitely from sweet girls. Yeah. What are your boundaries for girls? I mean, those are a few. Those are a few. Manipulation in the left hand is called the blesser magic. Thanks for the occult perspective here, Amy. If you care about her fidelity in a place like Japan, how do you keep yourself from getting jealous and paranoid? Just staying occupied with projects and other women. So I want her to think I care about her fidelity, but most of the time I don't really care that much. I will care like later on in the relationship. I will care more, genuinely will care more. But early on in the relationship, I want her to just think I care for the most part. And I do care in the sense that, like, I don't know, I don't really want her to just be like fucking every dude that talks to her in the street, right? I'd rather be the exception than the rule, right? She's something particular about my approach and the way I came up to her, made her open up. Or if she just happened to be open at the time, and then she decides she learns that she cares a lot more about me than she expected she would, which is often the case, then yeah, that I want her to decide at a later point, okay, I'm going to shut it down. I'm going to shut the street approaches down, or I'm going to shut the Tinder down, or the clubbing, or whatever, right? So she's got to do it, and yeah, and I'll guide her in that direction, right? Yeah. Yeah, so definitely do drop a like, please. I know this is a pretty intense conversation here, and I'm probably gonna actually have to take this video down in the future because I don't know, some of this stuff is not. I don't want the Jezebel squad getting on board with this. So I will probably take this video down in about I don't know, a couple hours. So. Just reiterating my previous question, but what is the worst thing you have experienced a woman do or say to you in Japan? It's a tricky one. Yeah. I mean, I've heard just about everything. I've heard just about every random superficial insult. All the gaijin specific insults, all the specific insults about, professions or whatever that might be, insults about everything about my appearance. It's hard to think of anything that actually really sticks. Do or say. Yeah, I mean, I've had some pretty funny interactions. Like, yeah, some girls who would, I'd pull them into a house and she starts being like, foreigners are so dirty and disgusting, and like, it's just me and her, right? So it's like, what is she going on about? Like, what is she even trying to, what point is she trying to prove? And I definitely could have, in that moment, I could have gotten angry. I could have been like, what the fuck is wrong with you, And the funniest part is that she came in the house with her shoes on. Like, she was just trying to walk around in my house with her heels on. I was like, who's disgusting and dirty now, right? But no, I had good humor about it, right? Like, it takes a lot to kind of, from one girl, it takes a lot to kind of get me angry, I guess. When it's multiple girls, sometimes they can irritate me by trying to essentially, I don't know, band together or whatever. Hurting. If you thought it's difficult to have a relationship with a single girl or pull a single girl home, think about pulling 20 girls to the club or something and bringing them all back without like losing. It's just herding cats essentially. That's difficult. That can get me a bit stressed sometimes. Why do so many foreigners in Japan end up with old and unattractive Japanese? It's kind of sad. It definitely is sad to see. It is sad to see. I guess I would say it's like a combination of, number one, they just don't have that much ambition for whatever reason. Maybe they're just used to fat girls back home, so they think that any girl who's reasonably skinny is very attractive. They might just have a fetish for Japanese women, right? Even unattractive ones. That's possible. And yeah, like, I just think like a lot of people are stuck in these like cesspool type ways of meeting women, right? That aren't going to produce, they're not going to give them attractive women, right? Like, I've tried to use Tinder, or I've tried to go to IPs, and yeah, every once in a while you'll find like a girl who's half decent, but it is a lot of sifting through the scraps, that you got to do. So unless foreigners are really like getting quite proactive with going to like different kinds of events and like actively going out and meeting girls and actively like messaging them, actively trying to get them on dates, yeah, they're gonna end up with whatever is. It's just basically the default, right? Not to mention, like, the tables have turned in Japan, and it's it's no longer necessarily cool to be with a foreigner. So for some girls it still is, but not for the general populace. I wouldn't say it's like the desired outcome, right? So we are kind of working against the grain here to a degree. What do you mean by cranking the screws on the private life? I mean, essentially, like, just being a bit more controlling about what she's doing, right? Being like, who are you, where are you with, send me a picture, or, being like, who's this, who are your friends, eventually, looking at her phone, making her change her background on her phone, all these kind of like, small behaviors, but over time, gradually, incrementally, cranking the screws. If any of this stuff sounds interesting, do check out darkpass.attractionjapan.com. Drop in your email. There will be some updates about what exactly it is and when it's coming out in the near future as well. I'm going to stream for maybe 1 or 2 more minutes. I'm about to end. So if anybody has any final questions, definitely let me know and hit that like button. We got 31 people watching, but only 15 likes, so please drop that like. It does help the algorithm. Let's fight the power and keep this interesting and a little bit taboo information on the airwaves. Feminists really are the worst of all party poopers and buzz killers. Should not have to take this video down ever. Yeah. I remember that story. She was so hot, she kept berating you, then she made out with another chick on your bed. Yeah. You do remember that story. I still have some videos from that probably somewhere. Yeah, the girl was smoking hot. But yeah, she did have some hate for the gaijin. It made it all the better when I was smashing her. I was like, yeah, how do you like this dirty gaijin dick? Yeah, it was good. It was very cathartic. Alright guys, thank you guys. Please drop a like in here as the last thing you do before leaving if you enjoyed the stream. I'll leave this up for another hour, so go back and watch if you missed some of it. And thank you guys for coming. I will be live again. Maybe there's a chance on Sunday the 15th. If not, Monday the 16th and Wednesday the 18th. Monday and Wednesday I will be live again. Going to get some good guests on next week for sure. So let me know. We got some good content, good ideas for streams. I solicited a bunch of ideas from the chats today, so it was pretty interesting. How has being a Nampa teacher changed your own Nampa? Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting question. It's tricky because I'm always trying to think of things from like kind of a beginner perspective. So I do get a lot of like kind of beginner mindset, like in a good way, kind of fresh eyes in some ways. So a dude just came in your house. Yeah, yeah, he's been here. He's been chilling. Look behind you. Yeah, I don't see what's so taboo. Yeah, that's true. All right, guys. Thank you guys for stopping by.